What do we know about Ishmael according to the Bible? Ishmael was Abraham's first son. He was born when Abraham was 86 years old and living near Hebron. In Genesis 15, God appeared to Abraham and promised him that he would have a son and become the father of many nations. At that time, Abraham had no children. His wife Sarah could not have children, and they wondered how God's promise would come true. Sarah's plan. In Genesis 16:3, Sarah, still called Sarai at the time, suggested to Abraham, still called Abram, to have a child with her Egyptian servant Hagar. She gave Hagar to him as a wife. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. Genesis 16:3. This was a common practice in those days. Jacob's wives did the same thing. The wife would give her servant to her husband, but any children born would be considered the wife's children. This was like an early form of surrogacy. In ancient times, when a woman couldn't have children, she would often give her husband a servant who would have children for her. The wife, not the servant, would raise these children. Growing problems. While this plan seemed smart to Abraham and Sarah, it caused more problems than it solved. Hagar did have a child with Abraham. When Hagar found out she was pregnant, she started to look down on Sarah. Sarah asked Abraham for help. Genesis 16:4-5 says, "So when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, 'My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me.' Abraham told Sarah to do whatever she wanted. Then Sarah treated Hagar badly, and Hagar ran away from her. Even though Sarah couldn't have children, she had gotten a son through Hagar, and by law, Ishmael was Sarah's child. But this doesn't explain why Sarah treated Hagar so poorly. God's covenant. A few years later, God made a covenant, a special agreement, with Abraham. This required all males in Abraham's household to be circumcised. God told Abraham to circumcise his son Ishmael and all other males in his household, including slaves born in his home and those bought from foreigners. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael was 13. The birth of Isaac. When Isaac was born as the true son of Sarah and Abraham, it made the already bad relationship between Sarah and Hagar even worse. These problems had started long before Ishmael was born, as we've seen. It was in the desert that the angel of the Lord met Hagar and told her to go back to Abraham. The angel also told her that her son should be named Ishmael. What does Ishmael mean? The name Ishmael means God has heard. The Lord heard Hagar's cry for help. Genesis 16:11. Sarah demands Hagar leave. The problems between Sarah and Hagar got worse when Isaac was weaned, stopped nursing. Sarah was very upset and asked Abraham to send Hagar and her son away. Abraham thought Ishmael was the son God had promised him. Even when God told him that Sarah would have a son, Abraham wondered why this was necessary, since Ishmael could be his heir. In Genesis 17:18, Abraham says to God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." Even after Isaac was born, Abraham continued to be kind to Ishmael. He was sad that Sarah wanted to get rid of him. Sarah saw Ishmael as a threat to Isaac's place in the family and wanted him gone. Genesis 21:1-34. Sarah's request to throw out the servant and her son seemed to go against all ancient laws. Children of servants could lose their status, but they couldn't be sent away without a good reason. The fact that Abraham didn't want to do this and only did it because God commanded him shows that this action was not normal for that time. Why did Sarah react this way? We might wonder about Sarah's reaction. Was it because Ishmael did something that threatened Isaac, or was it just that his existence was a threat? Genesis 21:9 tells us, Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Does this mean Ishmael was making fun of Isaac, or just playing with him? Does scoffing mean mocking or laughing at the situation? Sarah saw Ishmael as a rival to Isaac, not because of anything he did, but simply because he existed. The bigger picture. The writer of Genesis tells Ishmael's story mainly to show the difference between Isaac and Ishmael. They represent different aspects of God's work. When God kept his promises to Abraham, he wasn't limited by natural laws, by human effort. While God's choice of Isaac as the son of the wife followed custom, sending away Hagar and Ishmael made this contrast even clearer. Sent into the wilderness. Hagar was sent away with her son into the wilderness. Genesis 21:10-14 says, Therefore she said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, Do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning, and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it to the boy and Hagar, and sent them away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. They almost died of thirst, but God heard the boy and gave him water. God's plan for Ishmael. God still had plans for Ishmael. He promised Hagar that Ishmael, as Abraham's son, would become a great nation. Genesis 21:17-18. This prophecy came true, as reported in Genesis 25:12-18. Ishmael had 12 sons who became powerful leaders and eventually a nation. Here's how it happened. Hagar, who was Egyptian, chose an Egyptian wife for her son. Ishmael settled in the wilderness of Paran, Genesis 21:21. They dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt as you go towards Assyria. Genesis 25:18. Ishmael's children. He had 12 sons and 1 daughter. The Bible lists Ishmael's sons in Genesis 25:13. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadar, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. Interestingly, he had 12 sons, just like Jacob had 12 sons. This is similar to the 12 sons of Nahor and the 12 sons of Esau. Later, Ishmael's daughter married Esau, Isaac's son, Genesis 28:9 and Genesis 36:3. Where they lived. Havilah, where the descendants of Ishmael lived, was in the northern part of the Arabian Peninsula. Shur was a desert area between Beersheba in the Negev desert and Egypt. Isaiah 60:7 mentions the descendants of Nebaioth and Kedar as sheep herders. Ishmael's descendants. Ishmael's descendants were usually called Ishmaelites in the Bible. They were organized into 12 tribes that lived in movable camps in the southern desert, Genesis 25. Ishmael died at the age of 137, Genesis 25:17. The Bible doesn't say where he was buried, but Muslim tradition says his tomb is at the Kaaba in Mecca,